Now, Prince Charles's problem at the moment from yesterday is about Michael Fawcett. We've known this problem for a little while, actually. Michael Fawcett has been the head of Prince Charles's charitable organisation, the Prince's Trust, for 40 years. And the specific problem that's come up is something that goes against the offences. It goes against the Honours Act of 1925, which itself was drawn up because of the whole-scale abuse of the honours system by Prime Minister David Lloyd George. Now, there's a fellow called Mahfouz Mareh Mubarak bin Mahfouz, and he's a Saudi businessman, and he was given an honorary CBE in 2016. And having got that, he donated 1.5 million to the charitable organisation, to the Prince's Foundation, as a way in order to restore buildings. In fact, I know a number of people who've made quite significant donations for the restoration of various buildings and various projects. It seems a very honourable thing to do. Now, Mr. Fawcett seems to have written to this Saudi businessman and said, as far as I can see, the businessman might see his CBE increase to a KBE, and Mr. Fawcett would make the recommendation to the Honours Committee. Now, I don't think that's necessarily cash for honours. There isn't any link being made by Fawcett between the money which the Saudi businessman made and the honour that he was granted. So I think probably this is a storm in a teacup. As for Andrew, well, where do we start? First of all, it's unclear who's going to pay his bill because the sale of the ski lodge, I think it's gone through, but I don't think any money has appeared yet. So he obviously can't pay off Virginia Giffrey with the money that he might have got from the sale of that ski lodge. So where else would he get money? He certainly doesn't have a very big income. He doesn't get that much money really when you look at it more clearly. He doesn't get that much money per year. So he's probably going to have to look to the Queen to pay off this sizable debt of between 10 and 12 million pounds, maybe more, because we don't know how much the legal costs are actually going to end up. I mean, I think he's had appalling legal advice, by the way. Now, if the Queen pays, there will inevitably be calls to establish that the Queen has not used national funds, not paid out of the civil list, that this is money that has come out of her own personal wealth. And that's sometimes that distinction might be quite difficult to establish. As for the idea that Prince Andrew, he's committed to supporting sort of charitable work for victims of abuse, I really cannot imagine that any charity will take him seriously. Now, where is he going with this? If this was his initiative, I think people are looking at the later career of John Profumo, who was the subject of an amazing scandal in the 1960s. And then he did work for charities, and he basically rehabilitated himself. I cannot see Prince Andrew being able to do this. I think there's a big difference between the two men. I think there's a big difference also. I've heard in the last few days a link between Prince Andrew and the Monica Lewinsky crisis. I don't think there is any link. The Monica Lewinsky crisis was, of course, hugely salacious. I remember getting into a taxi in Greece, and all the taxi driver would do was talk about Monica Lewinsky. I couldn't get him onto any other subject. I suppose the Prince Andrew story has something of that same interest. But the point is, Monica Lewinsky was not underage, and she hadn't been trafficked. So this is a much bigger error of judgment. Whether Prince Andrew was involved with Virginia Giuffre or not, it doesn't really matter. If he wasn't involved with her, if he'd never met her, it becomes very strange to imagine why he paid her, why he's paying her so much money. Maybe he just thinks this is the way forward to keep the peace. Maybe he's falling on his sword. Effectively, he said anyway that he was such a man of honour. Now there are other things. Prince Andrew retains his title of Prince, of course. He also, at the moment, retains the title of Duke of York. I think, really, this is something he should renounce. Certainly, he shouldn't renounce it on behalf of his former wife, or indeed his children. Princess Eugenia and Beatrice, I believe, will play a role in the Platinum Jubilee celebrations, but I think their father should not. Even their mother, maybe, she's being gradually brought back into the fold. Maybe she can play a role, but I think Prince Andrew should not. And as for his role as Councillor of State, now there are 4 Councillors of State, I think. Prince Charles, Prince William, Prince Harry, and Prince Andrew. Now these are the 4 next in line for succession who are over 21. So one would have to wait a few more years before George is eligible to become a Councillor of State. I think this is where the Queen needs to make another very serious decision, because both Harry and Andrew have sort of taken, they're sort of no longer available. If the Queen were incapacitated, the Councillors of State would come into their own job. At the moment, there's only 2 who could. That's Charles and William. I think at this moment the Queen should appoint her daughter, Princess Anne, as a Councillor of State, and possibly Catherine, the future Queen, and the consort of Prince William. So I think that would be a particularly forward-looking decision. When Prince Charles becomes king, his wife Camilla would automatically become a Councillor of State as well. Anyway, that's a slightly more in-depth look at the Prince Charles, Prince Andrew debacle, and the sort of crisis that is emerging. One can only sort of shrug and think, this is turning into not a year of celebration, but another annus horribilis for Her Majesty the Queen, at a point when she should really be sitting back and looking back on a life very well led. Instead, she's looking at this chaos surrounding her children. Anyway, do follow the channel, do ring the bell, and do let me know what you think about this, particularly if you have some experience, if you've met some of these people. I would love to know. Bye-bye.